Pixar's Cars franchise, the media multiverse that dares to explore one of humanity's most pressing questions. What if cars were real? The Cars universe was launched in 2006 with the movie Cars, which introduced us to a world where everyone was cars. Humans were out of the question, meaning that during high-speed racing, the driver was the vehicle itself. The main character of the first movie is Lightning McQueen, but who cares? Everyone knows the audience had eyes for only one eccentric automobile: Tow Mater. Mater was the comic relief sidekick, the wide-eyed, fun-loving, selfless and modest companion to contrast McQueen's arrogant figure. It is through Mater's kindness and friendship that McQueen slowly opens up to the quirkiness of Radiator Springs and its lovable residents, changing his ways and learning to be a better person. Vehicle, whatever. The first Cars movie is an inspiring tale of solidarity and sportsmanship, of finding what drives you, pun intended, and using it to craft meaningful bonds instead of pushing everyone apart. It is about putting others first, slowing down and appreciating what truly matters, finding joy in what is simple and true instead of focusing on empty promises of grandeur. Cars 2, on the other hand, is a movie about thinking of how the existence of a Catholic Pope-mobile implies that there was once a car Jesus that was car-crucified? Carsified? Leading to the rise of Christianity, or Carstianity, thus making the Vehicle Society of the Vatican, Vativan? Elect a car pope, which is then paraded around with the help of a Pope-mobile. Wait, the car pope is named Pope Pinion? What kind of an idiot has Pinion in their name? Cars 2 doesn't work. But why? The universe is the same. And yet, when I watched Cars 1, I didn't spend that much time thinking about the Pope-mobile. Okay, maybe because the Pope-mobile wasn't in the movie. But I mean these things. These kinds of petty questions about the way the Cars world functions. Why is that? Why does the first Cars movie get away with it, while the second one doesn't? That's what I want to find out today. So start your engines, my beautiful planes, trains, and meowtomobiles, because I want to talk about Cars 2. The term nitpicking means fussing over a piece of work in a manner that is unproductive, mostly because you're focusing too much on details that don't matter. Usually, if someone claims you're nitpicking, they mean you're being annoying. Take the Pope-mobile example, even though you're probably tired of hearing about the guy. He's not important to the story. He has only one tiny cameo in the Cars 2 movie, and he is mentioned in one joke where Mater uses the figure of the Pope-mobile to express his certainty.
Mater, are these cars considered lemons?
Is the Pope-mobile Catholic?
So, if someone accused you of nitpicking by focusing so much on the lore implications of the Pope-mobile, they'd kinda have a point. Knowing about or understanding that kind of thing is not essential to the story of the movie, and incessantly focusing on such details instead of seeing the big picture is taking away from the overall enjoyment of the film. The Pope-mobile's presence is so limited that it could be cut out of the movie completely and nothing would change. But what about when you can't cut something out? You see, Cars 2 is a very provocative movie, in the sense that it keeps provoking you. Let's flash back to Cars 1 for a second. While McQueen is racing, we see many shots of the audience cheering for him as he goes around the track. In one of such shots, we catch a glimpse of a child car. If you're into nitpicking, you might think, now hold on a second. What does that mean about car biology? This kid car is a smaller version of a regularly sized adult car, so are kid cars expected to grow bigger as they age? Is it like in the 2005 Blue Sky masterpiece Robots, where the child switches out its body parts for bigger ones in order to grow? Or is it more of an organic process, like in humans? If so, are the cars in the Cars franchise technically made out of flesh? Do babies come from factories, or do cars become pregnant? How does car sex function? And by then, you would have missed the point completely, which is to establish that McQueen has fans of all ages. More than that, it is specifically showing you that young kids look up to him, so it would be important for McQueen to act as a positive role model for them, which in turn highlights the character growing that he has to do over the course of the movie. Focusing on the biology of car children is missing the big picture. I could edit out the clips with the car child and nothing about the main story would change. Cars 2, on the other hand, practically forces you to consider such questions. Let's look at another scene from Cars 1 and then compare how that same subject is approached in Cars 2. Here, we see a quick shot of the bathroom lines during the race at the start of the movie. You may notice how the female car bathroom has a line while the male one doesn't. That's the joke. This is what happens in the human world too, as anyone who frequents public bathrooms during crowded events will tell you. Cars 2 also has a bathroom scene, but in order for you to understand it, I have to give you a bit of context. Two different storylines are converging here. You have Mater, who thinks he is leaking oil and is rushing to find a bathroom, and you have these spy cars having an altercation. This spy car is an American, and he has some intel that he needs to share with the British spy cars, but these two enemy cars don't want him to do that, so they attack him. It is also important to remember that this is all happening in Car Japan, and Mater is having a hard time dealing with the Japanese car bathroom. In getting out of the cabin, he interrupts the fight, and the American spy, in an attempt to save the mission, transfers his tracker to Mater so that the information can still be passed on. This scene, much like the one in Cars 1, is a joke about bathrooms. In this case, the idea that Japanese toilets are weird. However, unlike the 2-second gag from the first film, this scene cannot be removed because it is plot relevant. It signifies the moment where Mater gets mistaken for an American spy and begins his spy career, which is basically the whole point of Mater in this film. It also serves to establish Mater as a foolish hick. He can't read the room, he can't handle foreign tech, he's loud, he's gross, he's unrefined, and those traits will contribute to the fight he has with McQueen later in the movie. The scene in Cars 1 lasts barely over a second. The scene in Cars 2 goes on for nearly 3 minutes. If you miss the gag in Cars 1, nothing changes. But if you miss the scene in Cars 2, you will be very confused. Therefore, you have to pay attention. And while you're paying attention, you can't help but wonder, what is the point of a car's bathroom anyway? Humans consume food and water, which is processed into waste, but cars don't eat. I asked my friend and fellow car scholar what's the use of a car's bathroom, and he says it's probably for oil changes, which makes sense. Mater runs into the bathroom because he thinks he's leaking oil after all. The Japanese bathroom also has a car wash function, but it seems to catch Mater off guard, which is part of the joke. So we can assume this is not the main purpose of a car toilet, but it is an interesting add-on. And what are these things on the corner here? Maybe it's for cars to dry off their tires. That's clever. It's like the human world, but instead of drying off their hands, they dry off their tires. Haha. But how would they get their tires wet in the first place? Their tires can't reach the sink. That's just the human sink. Cars should have something on the ground where it's easier to reach, with no edges that they have to step over. And actually, looking at it, I can't tell if this is for drying tires or polishing them. And what's up with the no smoking sign on the wall? Do cars smoke? How do they hold a cigarette? Do they have lungs? Do they need to breathe? Do you see what I mean? They provoke you. They leave too much room for questioning. They're so focused on trying to create a mirrored version of our human universe that they don't consider all the ways that humans and cars are, surprise surprise, completely different. Let's rewind the Cars 2 tape a little bit. Actually, Cars 2 was never released on VHS, so let's just click on a previous part of the timeline. The movie wants to establish that Mater is a tasteless hillbilly who doesn't know how to behave in social situations. He's so uncultured that he thinks this tray of wasabi is actually pistachio ice cream, and demands the sushi car serve him a heaping scoop of it, which he swallows unceremoniously. But, the green mass being wasabi, Mater's tongue starts to burn, and he races erratically in search of water, stumbling across the decorative waterfall at the main hall, where McQueen is being introduced to the other guests. Mater embarrasses McQueen by sloshing repeatedly at the water, and then it looks like he's leaking oil, which prompts him to look for the bathroom. Again, we have another scene that cannot be cut from the film. We have already established how the bathroom scene is essential, and this is a sequence of events directly leading to it, so we can't get rid of it. Mater needs to leak oil for McQueen to tell him to go to the bathroom, and for McQueen to see him leaking, Mater needs to be next to him, and he's there because he was looking for water, and he's looking for water because he ate the wasabi. Why the fuck would a car eat wasabi? No, actually, the wasabi I can get behind. Wasabi comes from a plant, and plants have been established as a thing that exists in the Cars universe. The cars in these films have tongues, and the tongues apparently have taste buds, so I can imagine that food is something they eat recreationally, mostly for the taste instead of the nutritional value, since it has also been shown that cars run on gas, unlike humans who run on food. No, the wasabi I get. But what the fuck is in the sushi? When I posed this question to my friend and fellow scholar, he simply replied by saying, submarine. He also said that when cars have sex, the exhaust pipe could function as the Cars 2 forces you to pay attention to this stuff. Mater has to eat the wasabi, to lick the water, to leak the oil, to find the bathroom, to stop the fight, to get the tracker, to be the spy. Mater has to be a hick, so McQueen can be mad at him, and so the spy car can later compliment his idiotic behavior, because he thinks it's an act, causing Mater to have an identity crisis. To look at how Cars 1 deals with the idea of food, let's rewind the tape. And we can do that for Cars 1 because it was the last movie that Disney released on VHS. Did you catch that? Me neither, because it isn't there. The only reference I can find to food in Cars 1 is when Mater introduces himself, because he says his name is like Toe Mater, but without the toe. And then it turns out his full name is Toe Mater. Tomato is edible, therefore food, but not necessarily to cars. It could be that the cars in Cars 1 acknowledge tomato as a plant, but not as something edible. Do you see that? That's being nitpicky. Who cares if cars eat tomatoes or not? It's not important to the movie at all. But in Cars 2, you have to consider if cars eat wasabi. The absence of wasabi in Cars 2 would fundamentally destructure the way the story is told. But if you focus on that, you kinda ruin the fun. Cars 2 is not about what sushi is made of, or why cars would eat wasabi, or what's the point of a car bathroom. It's an action comedy spy thriller. It's about McQueen learning to love his friends for who they are. It's about this lady learning to be a real spy. It's about Mater learning to— actually, never mind, Mater never learns anything in this movie. It is also about the systemic mistreatment of broken down cars, who are called lemons. But I'm not sure if I can say that because it's like a car slur. YouTuber Jack Saint has an iconic video about how this plot in Cars 2 is kind of eugenicist, but I won't get much into that here. My point is, if you want to, you could really become entrenched in the plot implications of Cars 2, and analyze its characters and morals and all that good stuff, which is what I usually do. But I can't do that here, because the movie keeps making me think about the physiological implications of car bathrooms. When Cars 1 was released, a question people often asked was, why are they cars? This is clearly a human story. The car society in question is structured exactly like a human society. Many people often criticize the ending of the movie, saying the moral was cliché and overdone, and that anyone could predict where the plot was going. And therefore, the fact that they were cars is just a cheap gimmick to make us think the story is original, when in reality it's just a retelling of every sports movie ever made. Because if they had used humans, everyone would have seen how much of a nothing burger the plot is. And I think that's a really disingenuous way of engaging with the story. First of all, I was 10 when this came out, and I had never seen these so-called tired cliches play out like this before. So to me, the twist was brand new. We gotta remember that 10-year-olds deserve to be blown away by cliches too. But second, and most importantly, the movie uses cars because cars are fun. Pixar made its name with a movie about toys coming to life, and the different ways children play with toys. And then they followed that up with a movie about bugs having feelings, and monsters having feelings, and fish having feelings, and even humans having feelings, so whatever. Cars have feelings too, everything's alive. There is something inherently playful about giving humanized traits to non-human things, because that's what kids do. Kids will get a toy car and make it say things like a human would, and have interpersonal relationships like humans do. That is the basic level of engagement you should have with this story. Do not question why the cars are alive. Just understand that we're playing pretend here. And now that we have non-human characters living out a very humanized story, we get to see the tale of the Cars movie as a fable. Ask yourself, what is this narrative trying to teach us? How does it benefit from utilizing non-human characters? When you get down to it, Cars 1 is a story about how winning isn't everything. McQueen wants to be number 1, and he is so blinded by his own illusions of self-importance that he fails to see what really matters. He thinks the world should revolve around him, and his world revolves around racing. He is impatient, selfish, and forgoes genuine connection in the name of speed and glory. McQueen is the interstate. Fast, impersonal, cutting corners. Radiator Springs and its main road, Route 66 on the other hand, represent a world of slowing down and letting life flow at its own pace, appreciating the little things and forging meaningful bonds. And this world is running the risk of becoming extinct. It's a bygone era, the last remnants of a pleasant past that is being erased by a new generation of high speed and instant rewards. In other words, of Lightning McQueens. It is by giving into the slower way of life that McQueen sees the error of his ways, and understands that if he keeps on living only for himself, he will not only miss out on valuable friendships and great moments, but he will be actively harming others. When the fabulous Hudson Hornet had his great accident and was ostracized from the racing scene, the world was beginning to show the same selfish and fast-paced tendencies that would eventually lead to the decay of Radiator Springs. When McQueen's opponent, the King, suffers a similar accident, McQueen choosing to help him is not only proof that he has grown individually as a character, but it's also a sign that he is willing to reverse the wheels of time and bring back the more charitable ways of the past. The movie frames this as the correct choice, as saving King brings McQueen the sponsor opportunity he's always wanted, but by that point, he has changed so much that his dreams no longer align with Dinoco's, and he is happier investing in the little guy instead of selling out his soul for fortune and fame. And also, it's delicious. It's such a heartwarming story. That's the magic of sports narratives. By the time the main character scores the goal or crosses the finish line and realizes the true first prize is the friends they've made along the way, you are screaming and crying and throwing up in excitement. I'm not thinking about how cars go to the bathroom, because the story is good. I don't have to focus on anything else, and the movie isn't making me do that. In Cars 2, the story is not good. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's funny at best, and problematic if you think too much about it. Not every movie needs to be an emotional journey about the highs and lows of racing and friendship, but when you set such a high bar with a great first movie, the second one had massive shoes to fill. Tires, whatever. And also, to me, the biggest proof that Cars 2 is not worth your time is that when Disney released Cars 3, they basically ignored the first sequel. Mater finishes the second movie as an honorary spy with built-in jetpacks and a sexy magenta girlfriend, and the third movie does not acknowledge any of that. We instead get a wonderful story about legacy, mortality, and the unrelenting passage of time, and we all get to pretend that the second movie is an exhaust fumes-induced hallucination. When a story is good, you forgive a lot of issues. You are willing to overlook plot conveniences, real-life inaccuracies, a joke or two that don't land. You just accept those things. Because the big picture is so marvelous, it doesn't matter if a few brushstrokes aren't perfect. So, if you ever find yourself nitpicking, it might be valuable to ask if you're being annoying for no reason, or if the story just isn't good enough to be taken at face value. Or if you're putting more thought into it than the writers probably did. And when all else fails, you can always make a YouTube video and complain about it. Thank you for watching. Well, hello there. It was very nice of you to watch this video. Special thanks to my beautiful patrons for making videos like these possible. You guys are the friends we've made along the way, which are more valuable than any first prize. If you have enjoyed the video, you can also help me out by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell too. You can also follow me on a bunch of different places, such as Blue Sky, the website formerly known as Twitter, and my second channel. The link to all of those things will be in the description. Share this video with your friends if you're feeling extra generous. Feel free to leave a comment down below, especially if it is about how much you love Cars. The movie, not the vehicle. Although if you love the vehicle, feel free to say so. Hello, MacLeod. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
What are you selling?
Headlights, monsieur?
What the f-